thank you all so much for being here. I'm Kaitlin Kirsch, a candidate for the Emerging Media Studio Art Design MFA UCF, and this is my thesis defense, framing home, extending beyond the threshold. First, I'd like to say thank you to my committee, Carla Poindexter, Bobby Ayosa, and Lindsay Dyke, for your guidance in helping me grow through this process. My fellow third-year cohort for your dear friendships, Justin Luper and everyone at Casselberry who keep art spaces like these running and being open to letting Lene Peterson and I have our show here. And thank you, of course, my family and fiance who've supported me through some very stressful times. This thesis body of work inspects the changes in my relationship to domesticity and my evolving sense of control over the spaces I've called home. By creating and embellishing spaces that subvert the threshold between the physical and psychic, the work stimulates feelings of comfort or discomfort. This installation takes into consideration the intangible rules that infiltrate a household, defining the framework in which a person learns to live or survive within its confines. These rules are defined by the culture of the presumed nuclear family and established based on status within it, such as my own role as eldest daughter. There are also self-appointed rules meant to ease anxieties of the overwhelming nature of the ordinary, such as the routines and habits I rely on to get through my everyday. Routine is security. Tasks are contentment. Start the coffee pot, make the bed, brush my teeth, walk the dog, get dressed, doom scroll, drink my coffee, pack my bag, put on my shoes, say goodbye. Now build on top of that. Cooking, breathing, dishes, sex, laundry, death, tightening up, giving birth. Now figure the unfathomable amount of people doing the same in their homes since the Stone Age. Suddenly, the hardest thing to do is what we do in every blink, confronting the ordinary. That's really what history mostly is, masses of people doing ordinary things. A confrontation no one person has particularly bested, but one we try to give ourselves any upper hand we can to survive, no matter how irrational. Often we know when our habits and mindsets are harmful. However, it's how we were taught to interact within our physical boundaries, and it's hard not to continue to fan the flame. With the ferocity we crave comfort and warmth in the space we call our own. The work asks the viewer to reflect on the narrative everyday objects hold, the charge the words we use hold, and the impact shifting in familial and societal climates hold on the individual. Dear viewer, come into my home. Home as an extension of language, crafting the narrative. Defense mechanisms are crafted for when barriers become obsolete. Idioms are an expression in the usage of a language that's peculiar to itself, either in having a meaning that cannot be derived from the conjoined meanings of the elements or its grammatically atypical use of the words. For example, to get ants in your pants. I won't get ants in my pants, but I will fill my shoes with cement. I think before I speak. I cannot speak before I think. I think about the best words to use. I think about its pronunciation, pronunciation. I think about how it sounds. I perceive myself. I judge myself before you can pass judgment onto me. That does not mean I always say the right plea. Contemporary art is interdisciplinary and immersive. Domestic items set a scene, as fabrics communicate an association with a certain time, place, or status, creating a language of their own, such as a tea towel, which should be used to clean up a mess, but its decorativeness makes me hesitant to use it. Text-based works push continuation of the expanding of what art is and allows for different layers of critique or commentary. An incisive joke can be used as a system of communications and as a probe of our environment, of what's really going on. It affords us our most appealing anti-environmental tool. Today's humor is usually a compressed overlay of stories. Lisa Kogan's work alters found materials from places like thrift stores to skew them to her own message. Kogan interweaves secondary items to the base object as supporting imagery, such as this piece of a book page she has altered to now read, "Marriage, a vacillating state of the libido." A cuttingly delicate handling of materials, bringing importance back to a discarded material. A truth in the guise of dry and morbid wit, humor as the defensive strategy, poking at political and social affairs, not to dismiss, but to cope and relate. Changing the light in which something is viewed can make it less threatening. In dynamics, a person feels powerless within. There is agency that is granted in the words that can be chosen, even if it is a futile effort. I won't put lipstick on a pig. The physical experience with an object can vary from person to person. If you have never wrestled with a pair of pantyhose, you may not feel the same disappointment as someone who's felt the frustration of how fuzzy and delicate they are. But I will hide the pig under my bed. The words "I won't put lipstick on a pig, but I will hide the pig under my bed" act as a guide. There's a general understanding of what this object means in regards to hiding blemishes. But it is recognized. Many can empathize with the sting of the word pig in relation to a body. To put lipstick on a pig makes surface level changes to something disliked, a futile effort. You're putting lipstick on a pig, an elder too proper to speak directly, but too aghast by the state of things to keep her mouth shut, telling you you're too fat for the dress you're wearing. Words are not forgotten, and often not forgiven. They stab like a needle, a string of letters forming a thread, being pulled through you, then back around. The needle goes to strike again, form its tight stitch. The act of embroidery violates the object it's being added to. The holes created as the needles push through will forever disturb the integrity of the fabric. A word after word after word is power. There's a power in having the ability to express yourself, your life, your thoughts, your feelings, even when the words themselves do not feel so strong. Well, I say I have my life together, but the flowers have been rotting on the counter for weeks. Green-tinged water, purple drains to brown. Watching the decay is more upsetting than just throwing the flowers away, but the vase is the center of the accumulating mess. Slack. I think I have all the tools I need. But these scissors are too dull to be of any use. And I'm at my rope's end. I will create some tension to make it snap. If I throw away the flowers, then I have to clean the vase. Slouch. Really, I'm doing great, but the feeling of my socks sliding down my leg again might ruin my day, so help me, God. Then I have to do all this just to think, then I have to put everything away, left on the counter, then I have to go down the counter, then I have to clean fixtures, then I have to vacuum, then I have to dust, then I have to do it again, because I forgot to dust before, now there's dust on the floor, and then I have to vacuum the bedroom, sink. I just need some rest. To let my mind rest. But I'm not sure I know how to do that without crashing. I will just submerge myself so no one sees. But I have to pick up laundry for a second, just start a little bit, leaves in the bathroom, I put away on the counter, I've done the clean fixtures, vacuum, limp. If someone could only give me a hand. Happy endings create an alienation. The child asks, why I don't have this happiness you're telling me about, and comes to think when his joy stops, that he has failed, that it won't come back. Words are a tool that enable a person to communicate emotions and experiences, an opportunity for connection. A tool, a complicated tool that will be as direct or indirect, sharp or fluffy, simple or convoluted as one allows it to be. The language a person has learned to use and surrounds themselves with provides the structure in which they perceive reality. It's the building blocks for how emotions are processed, relationships are formed, and values are established. Those blocks become the structure of a home. Home as an extension of skin, protecting the inner self. Home, the place in which one resides for a long or influential period, a place that is dependent on one's sense of comfort, belonging, and safety. It is influenced by culture, politics, and economic status. Skin, the largest organ, embodies first line of defense, forming a physical, chemical, and immunological protective barrier between the body and the external environment. It is influenced by environmental factors such as diet and antibiotics. Humans develop technology tools and media as ways to supplement functions of the body. A telescope extends vision, a microphone amplifies voice. A home, at its most basic, is an additional protective barrier between the body and the external environment. Environments are not passive wrappings, but are rather active processes which are invisible. The ground rules, pervasive structure, and overall patterns of environments elude easy perception. A person's skin is coated in communities of microorganisms, some things that are working to help, and others to harm. These are not processes the brain is consciously involved in. The walls surrounding us are not merely a backdrop, but have prevailed in our line of sight for so long, it's too much to think about. Where every mark on them came from, or why they were painted gray in the first place. Anti-environments or counter situations made by artists provide means of direct attention and enable us to see and understand more clearly. Familiarity means an ability to recognize what is wrong. Mirrors are inherently linked to seeing oneself and viewed as transitional spaces. Many superstitions affecting one's livelihood are inspired by mirrors, such as breaking a mirror brings 7 years of bad luck, or various concerns of the soul being carried off, entrapped, carried off, like prey in talon. The great blue heron, a predatory bird native to the wetlands of North America, is seen as a symbol of protection, revered for their patient stalking of their prey. Entering in through an open window, pushing through closed curtains, a moment before its presence is fully realized. We decided it would be a good day if we saw the blue heron in the algae-covered pond next to the road. I'm not sure I can define what a good day looks like for me, but there are routines I have and attempts to have a common organized one. I start with a coffee pot, wash my face, bathe with sea serum, eye cream, moisturizer, drink my coffee, brush my teeth, get dressed, do my makeup, fix my hair, put on the same 4 pieces of jewelry every day. I don't typically make the bed. He usually does that. So that if we didn't see it, I'd be upset. Then he began to lie, to tell me he'd seen it when he hadn't, or to suppose that it had just taken off when we rounded the corner in the gray car that somehow still ran. And I would lie too, for him. I'd say I saw. There's a vulnerability a person grants to those that they give access to their space. There is no bird, there is no snake. Uncovered spots of flesh. There is a man, a woman. Insights into our routines and who we really are. Neglected pile of laundry, tidy bed, open doors, but closed drawers. There is a dog and now there's a cat named Bunny. Maybe I willed her into existence, painting a bunny into this portrait. Dog in the bedroom. Snake in the kitchen. Who took my shoe? I'm surrounded. There is a man who knows not to disrupt the woman's routines. There is a man who knows sometimes the woman just needs to hear. It doesn't matter. Then all appeared. I had killed the bird that brought fog and mist. The bedroom is a strange place. There is no space within the house where we spend more time doing less and doing it mostly quietly and unconsciously than here. And yet, it is in the bedroom that many of life's most profound and persistent unhappinesses are played out. Even then, people bury themselves deeper into a bed and under the covers, another layer of skin added, a protective shell woven of cotton, trapping air, trapping warmth, trapping anxieties, a cushion one can only hope will aid their fall. I can surround myself with as many wards in the shape of routine and drown myself in as many protections in the form of fabric as I like. Day after day, day after day, we stuck, nor breath, nor motion, Water, water everywhere, or any drop to drink. Repetitive restlessness. Once a person gets too stuck in their ways with the same incessant thoughts and actions played out by muscle memory, it can be hard to see the need to come up for air. The same methodical waves crashing over. But the water is too salty to sustain life. Familiarity and comfort add suffocation. There's a link between lifestyle and mental illnesses. Many obsessions and compulsions involve or stem from day-to-day habits and routines. The expected is no longer neutral, and every action is tedious when it needs to be completed to noxious perfection. Confronting the ordinary becomes a burden. The weight of it will pull you under. Adaptation is a necessity of survival. And the devil knows how to row. Home as an extension of virtue. Patience, persistence, prudence. Heron reflects in the static water. The mirror shows me a familiar place. The bass tries to get back to its nest, but it's wrong. This is home. The best argument for fact is the absolute unaffordability of fiction. The definition of insanity is doing the same action over and over again, continually bashing against the door, becoming the recurring threat of its own reality. Carving and chipping away at the block over and over again, over and over again, pressing and stamping the block over and over again, over and over again. Patience is a virtue. Force to slow down, to not cut into the image. Force to take a breath, to follow the curve of the form. Force to steady my hand, to not slice into skin where the needle has already stabbed. Patience is a virtue, my mother's favorite phrase. Too young me, I didn't get it then, but I get it now. And to restless mother's sight, she saw me first, but how can I be still? What will the future bring? Lifestyle changes and technological improvements mostly just brought more work to women through bigger houses, more complicated meals, more copious and frequent laundry, and even higher expectation of cleanliness. Draped, overworked, overwhelmed, overstimulated, I fold. Persistence is a virtue, keep going, and hanging on by a thread. Persistence is a virtue. Next, tilt. Life is all about balance. Persistence is a virtue, but self-sacrifice so often slips into being a sin. It's a push and a pull. I try not to give in to anyone's pressure. Drop. Where is the man in this family portrait? Nowhere and everywhere, like a sky, a horizon, and switch simultaneously determines and limits a condition. on the inside. Femininity is pure, free, powerful. But men are everywhere outside, exerting pressure on all sides. A world without men, but entirely constituted by the male gaze. The world is watching, waiting, waiting, waiting for you to mess up, but I can acknowledge the gaze. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. It's all a facade. A structure made of cardboard that's rigid and it's there, but I can also cut a hole right in it to weaken a structure not working for me. Collapse. Give way. Be free. How do you know you're making the right choice? Well, you don't know what does, but you can expand your horizons to look beyond the sky. Autonomy, independence, and freedom for all. To be wise, clever, informed, perceptive, strategic, attentive, mindful, methodical, careful, cautious, heedful, judicious, prudent. Prudence is a virtue, and if a man's gonna make it, he's gotta be tough. Home as an extension of relationships, expectation and deviation. Poking holes, little tears emerge, furthering the disconnect between two halves that never quite matched up. The lily pads rise, blooms opening in the morning sun, a distraction I can rest under. I can't explain myself, I'm afraid, because I'm not myself, you see. External circumstances can disrupt a sense of self when trying to fit into what feels like an irrational world. In Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, the way Alice defines herself seems to compensate this fundamental sense of insecurity. Having a fixed self, described by dependable and certain parameters, can reassure her with the sense of control she needs. Alice is unable to rationalize that she can change and remain herself. She is able to perceive differences, but her past self cannot be integrated into her present self. How can it possibly be her when the her she believes she is can never be so? Reliance on belief leaves her lost. Let's look for a physical boundary to latch onto. A curtain is an imposed boundary on the threshold of a window. It is meant to hide or cover something. It can keep you safe, keep someone from looking in, hiding vulnerability. It can keep you from looking out, keep you isolated, mitigate the uncertain. Familiarity stabilizes, familiarity stabilizes, familiarity stabilizes. Repetition is expectation. Tension is what happened. When we deviate from it. Leslie Tell's work explores the relationship between polite society and the evil that lingers around us. Through a lexicon of repeated symbols, words, and materials, Shimmer is made of around 2 million feet of wire. Dill's work emphasizes the tactile and the ability to use her materials and words as a shield of armor. You may laugh, but I feel within me suddenly strange voices of God and handles, dog's thirst, and message of slow memories that disappear across the fragile bridge. Faced with this installation, one can't help but think about the repetitive motions of making, building, compiling. A deep resonation I have with Dill's practice is that she considers herself a fingertip artist. She works through the feeling of the wire or the thread between her fingers. Through the medium of embroidery, the physical act of making becomes a repetitive, small, tedious task with my hands. A compulsion, pulling thread through and through, over and over, fulfilling a need to do things many times before there is satisfaction in its completion. Slow memory, slipping through my fingers, threads trying to weave back that bridge. A mental state seeking a physical outlet. Leaving the space of one's usual sensibilities, one enters into communication with a space that is psychically innovating, pulling you in. The canvases of the ants go marching 2 by 2 and side by side converge in the corner of the room, activating the work into communication with the body of the viewer. The beige wallpaper, covered in a pattern of muted green leafy vines, is starkly contrasted with a rectangle of flat black. The two separated by the threshold of a door frame, but connected by a life-size arm reaching around to a light switch, attempting to shut it off. The moment right before the action is still. Small presence of a considerable force holding its ground. A finger, a bright white light switch, and a singular red ink create a tense intersection. Gradually, as the viewer moves to the right, the ants increase in number. The leafy pattern that pulls upward is disrupted by the horizontal movement of the ants, which are grouped numerically 1 through 10 in a broken up rhythmic line across the canvas, breaking the rules. Breaking the plane and continuing onto the wall, the ants go marching 10 by 10, the little one stops to say, the end. Stability is a fickle friend. We falsely rely on them. We think we have authority over them, and they're easy to lose. Robert Rauschenberg's bed combine confronts the viewer vertically with a scenario they would expect to encounter horizontally, making the functionality of it as a bed obsolete, but highlighting the bright front of it. Whether the slashes of paint should be read as impudent gestures against the domestic sublime, or a pitying suggestion of a specific household's trouble. Re-examining an object of comfort as something alarming, a warning. One day, I'm afraid there will be nothing left. Black vultures, a mistletoe, a scavenger bird often seen hunting through trash cans on suburban streets, and a parasitic plant people invite willingly into their homes. As I have devoured all that was given to me. The making of that tablecloth incorporates both material elements I can and cannot control. I cannot control the exact outcome of the standing as this was done, steeping the cloth in coffee, pressing it into mud, spilling ink down it. There is, though, a need for control and autonomy. I can control the creation of my carvings, how many times they're transformed into the fabric. However, then again, I cannot control how they get here into the fabric, because that depends on the type of staining down. Who wins? Who wins? Who wins in a battle of scavengers and parasites? What What can we control in our lives when it feels there are so many outside forces trying to mess it up? Where do our restraints lie before we then devour too much? Bleed ourselves dry for those above us to peck? Who is watching? Who is waiting? I won't put all my eggs in one basket. Unfortunately, knowing what you're not supposed to do does not mean you're doing the right thing. It means people learn how to hide, to survive, to try to come out on top of someone else, not letting them see your flaws, staying in your own bubble, don't create too much fuss, don't let it pop, don't be exposed. But I will carry too many baskets at once. The greatest possible irony would be if in our endless quest to fill our lives with comfort and happiness, we created a world that had neither.